Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're mapping out something absolutely critical for the growth and management of any non-deposit taking SACCO. Whether you're expanding your territory with a brand new branch, shifting an office to a much better street, or making the really tough call to close the location down entirely, you're navigating a highly strict regulatory roadmap. Specifically, we're going to unpack Regulations 17 through 20 of the SACCO Society's non-deposit taking business regulations of 2020. And look, this isn't just standard bureaucratic red tape. These are the precise, non-negotiable guardrails you must follow to keep your operations legal, compliant, and thriving. Okay, let's dive into this. We have 5 clear stops on our journey today. First, expanding your footprint. Second, making a move. Third, closing up shop. Fourth, the actual cost of non-compliance. And finally, your next steps.
All right, stop number 1, expanding your footprint, which is covered under Regulation 17.
Let's start with the exciting part of the life cycle, growth. But when it comes to growth, this is the magic number you absolutely need to remember, 90. If you're planning to open a new branch, a marketing office, a satellite, or any kind of outlet really, you can't just be spontaneous. By law, you are required to notify the authority in writing of your intention at least 90 days before you actually open that new location. That is a full 3-month runway you literally have to build into your expansion strategy.
What's really interesting about this is how it breaks down into an exact 4-hurdle sequence you must clear before you can invite a single member inside. Step 1 is that 90-day notification we just talked about. Step 2, you must obtain explicit written approval from the authority. It's not enough to just send the letter off into the void. You have to get the green light back. Step 3 requires paying the prescribed fee. And finally, Step 4, once you're officially authorized, you must prominently display that authorization at your new place of business. If the authority is satisfied, you've checked all the boxes, they'll hand over that written authorization.
And you know, the financial side of that compliance doesn't just magically end on opening day. Once you have your authorized place of business, your SACCO has to pay an annual authorization fee to maintain it. To put it simply, that fee is exactly 10,000 shillings per authorized location every single year, just to keep things compliant.
Opening is one thing, but hey, business is dynamic, right? Sometimes foot traffic changes or maybe a lease expires. So what exactly happens if your current location needs to shift to a completely new address? That brings us to stop number 2, making a move, outlined in Regulation 18. Look, you can't just pack up the head office or a branch on a Friday and move across town by Monday, not without strict written approval. A relocation requires that same 90-day notification, but this time with a lot more detail. You've got to submit a statement explaining the exact reasons for the move, provide a concrete plan for how you'll transfer claims and liabilities, and confirm that preparations at the new premises are complete. You must have everything physically ready and approved before opening the doors at the new spot. So, we've covered opening and moving, but we really need to address the harder reality of the business life cycle. What if a branch or satellite office is just no longer viable and simply isn't working out for the community or the business? This takes us to our third stop, closing up shop, which falls under Regulation 19. If you need to permanently cease business at a location, you can't just lock the doors and walk away. This brilliantly illustrates a delicate balancing act. On your side, the SACCO's burden, your application must include the specific reasons for closure and a very detailed plan for how you'll settle or transfer assets and liabilities. The authority, however, is focused on the broader community. Before they sign off on your closure, they have to be completely satisfied that closing the branch won't jeopardize the public interest and that alternative local financial services are actually available to replace what you provided. Now, let's say the authority does grant you the approval to close. You still have some incredibly strict obligations. Here we see that magic 90-day number again. You must give notice of the closure to your members at least 90 days before the doors actually shut. And this notice has to be public, like in at least one newspaper with nationwide circulation, or through another method the authority accepts. Finally, once the location is permanently closed, you have a really tight 14-day window to officially report that finalized closure back to the authority.
Which leads us directly into our fourth stop, the cost of non-compliance under Regulation 20.
So the crucial point is that skipping these timelines, notices, and approvals is simply not an option. If an officer of the SACCO contravenes these rules without cause, they're liable for a financial penalty up to 100,000 shillings. But look at the stark escalation when it comes to personal liability. If a person
contravenes these regulations regarding a place of business, they commit a full-blown offense. Upon conviction, that person faces a fine up to 100,000 shillings or imprisonment for up to 3 years, or both. Yes, you heard me right. The stakes for bypassing this roadmap literally include jail time.
All right, let's take a breath and move to our final stop, your next steps. We've covered a huge amount of ground today, from those strict 90-day notifications all the way to the severe penalties of noncompliance. It really begs the question, is your SACCO's current growth strategy accidentally charting a course toward regulatory breaches, or are you moving forward with absolute certainty? For specialized consulting on these matters and to see how this roadmap fits your organization, please reach out directly at 0107-719089. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. What is the very first thing you're going to double check after listening to this?